Did you know you could DIY a metal star out of a Dollar Tree cookie sheet and some paint, make a rusty paint finish? In this video, I'm going to show you how. Hi, my name is Kim from Farmhouse Craftaholics, and I'm here to make craft projects more fun and doable for you. So don't forget to subscribe and like so you can see more videos from me every single week. Now let's get into the video. We're going to create a rusty farmhouse star from some Dollar Tree cookie sheets. Watch and see. So you're going to need something to create your star, some kind of template. This is a Dollar Tree, it came from one of the Dollar Tree wooden forms that I've been painting for something else. I'm going to use that as my template. You're going to need a pen or something similar to mark out your template, a really, really scruffy brush, another really scruffy chip brush, something to cut with. You can use scissors. I like this. And these colors of paint. I'm going to use gray, black, brown, and orange. Let's get started. Okay, in order to create the star, this, you can see how it's got depth to it. We're going to be making that with this Dollar Tree cookie sheet. And they come two to a pack usually. I'm going to just use the star as my template. You can do this in any size. And I'm going to use my pen. I'm going to move this up here so closed captioning will work better, and just position it where you think it's the best use of your cookie sheet. And I'm going to just use my pen to mark out, basically just trace around the star, and it's going to be denting the cookie sheet so you can see where to cut. That's all that this is used for. So use whatever star shape you have, wherever you can get it from, and just use it as your template. I think I have it all. It doesn't actually write on it. It just scores the cookie sheet so you can see where to cut. All right. So you can use scissors for this, but I'm going to use one of these and see if this is any better. I've done it with scissors too, but be careful because even though it's flimsy, it's still quite sharp. And you can wind up cutting yourself. I'm using a cutting mat underneath here, so don't do this on your table unless you've got one of these kind of fancy cutting mats. I think this might be the way to go. Now, like I say, the edges are still sharp even though it's flimsy. Okay, so I'm just going to grab my glasses so I can see what I'm doing here, and then just follow the edges. I'm going to go straight to a point, see if I can make that work. And you can trim off the ends if you want to. Oh, I'm liking how this is happening. So there we go. It cuts very easily. I actually have used it with, things that you use for paper cutting. The little stamp cutter, shape cutters and things like so. Save these little bits because you can use them for cutting little pieces out for shiny tchotchkes, whatever you want to do. I'm just following along here. Now, I am a crafter that doesn't mind if things are not 100% perfect, but you can take your time, spend some time doing this if you think that, it's very important. I'll talk about the things that I think are important, but there we go. So there's our star. It's cut out. We'll just put these away. We don't need those anymore. Save them for another time. So this guy's not perfect, and that's okay. I can trim that out just a little bit. Get a better star shape there. So there we go. You have your star shape. I did forget to mention that you need a ruler or a straight edge of some sort. As long as it can go across your star, it doesn't really matter. But here is the trick. We're going to take our ruler or a straight edge and see the indent here and the point there. We want to just draw, score again. So flip it over and decide which side you think is, okay, this is obviously the back side, so I'm going to work on the back side. Okay, but if you like this side better and you've gotten that sticker off, awesome. So I'm going to just take my ruler and I'm going to score from the tip of this right to that indent right there. Okay, so it doesn't have, you don't worry about this, but just make sure
you score from the tip right to the indent right there, okay? See that? Let me see if I can show you. Again, it doesn't really mark it so much as it scores it so you can see, okay? And it shows on the other side. That's what we're really concerned with, okay? So we're going to do this for all of the angles. And just make sure that it starts crossing in the same spot in the center, everywhere that, let me see if I can put, everywhere that you do that. So go to the next tip, measure it up, make sure it's right in line with this, score. Okay, so right here is where we want everything to be centered now, where it's starting to cross each other. Makes just a better, better result in a minute. So we just do all of the tips like this. And so you want it this, this, and this all to match now. There we go. Same here. Last one. There we have it all scored. You can see where it all meets in the center. That's where I went wrong the last time. Right out to the tips. Now I flip it over to the right side. And next step, we will shape the star. So the leg is making it look a little very, very bright, but I can't do anything because you're going to want to see what I'm doing. So you can see the score lines, okay? So anything from the tip, these tips, I want you to just fold like this, right? See how that folds? That's where you're going to start getting your shape. So all the longer ones, you're going to fold down. So use those score lines to help make that happen. See this? You start to see your shape happening. And that's what these score lines are for, right? And then this last one here. All right, see that? Now, these ones that are in the smaller, we're just going to push those in. Push that in. Push that in. Push that one down. Push that one down. Again, be careful. Then you play around with this a bit until you're happy with the shape of it. And this just takes a little finessing, a little finagling until you're content with the shape of your star. You can push it in a little further using those score lines. And there you have your star has been shaped just like that. You see? Pretty simple. And you can mess around, tidy it up. This is where you want those lines to be sharp. Next up, we're going to rust the star. So in the interest of keeping things neat and tidy on my cutting mat, and so that you can see it, normally I would work with like a puppy pad underneath, but the white tends to blow out the camera, make it hard for the viewer to see. So I'm going to just use some paper bag as recommended by one of my followers, just to keep things clean on my mat. I've worked on my mat too, but that would make it harder for you to see. So first off, this is super shiny and this is super not shiny. So we are going to take some gray paint. This is just a 50-50 black and white mix. I always mix my own gray paint. And then we're going to just stamp that in. We want a dryish brush. So let's grab a towel or something to wipe it off on. So I'm just going to use an old towel. Get a dry brush happening here. Okay. And then just dry brush the gray on the silver. It doesn't have to be super accurate because you're going to be going over it, but you can see the difference between the shine and the no shine. And now it starts to look more like galvanized and less like cookie tray. We can go a bit more on there. And this is so light it only takes a couple of minutes to dry. But I will hit it with the heat gun to speed things up here. However, if you're using the heat gun, remember this is metal and it can get pretty hot, so be careful. There we have it. It is now dull and looks more like galvanized. So to me, this is where the fun starts. Take your scruffiest brush. This is a old kid's art brush, and I save it for projects just like this. You want it super scruffy, super bad shape, your worst brush ever. And we're going to take our little scruffy brush. You can do this with a bigger one, but I'm going to show you with the smaller one. I could have done it with the other brush that I have. So get the paint on there, and then stamp it in here, and then just start stamping it randomly on your star, okay? And I know it doesn't look like much yet, but you just play around, and remember that rust likes to happen along the edges, but this is not really going to matter just yet. You don't want to cover the whole thing. You've got 2 more colors to go. Okay, so I think that's probably enough black for now. All right, this is one of those things that you can do for hours. So just be warned, it gets kind of addictive. All right, so without changing your brush, without cleaning it, you're going to head into the brown paint, stamp it in a bit, and do the same thing again while it's wet, okay? So don't wait for it to dry. Again, randomly, so you leave some of the black showing, you have brown over some gray. You don't necessarily want to cover all that black, right? So you can see I'm leaving some of the black, and then I'm going in over some of the gray where there's no black at all. It's whatever. This is a technique that you just have to play around with, but once you get the hang of it, no 2 pieces ever turn out the same. And they also, if you hate it, you just paint over the whole thing in gray and start again, okay? So keep that in mind. We don't want you having something you don't love. So you can see where it's starting to take some shape, all right? See that? It's starting to look a little rusty. This is like an espresso color, black espresso, and then any kind of orange that you have. It's hard to see. It's a bit brighter than that in real life, okay? So the black, the espresso, chocolate color, and some kind of orange. Often I'll just mix my own and play around. So I'm happy with that. And here's where the magic is going to start to happen. Again, do not clean your brush. Tip into the orange, dab, dab, okay? And then start where it's wet and just randomly start to dab some paint on. Blend it, make sure it's blending, and you'll start to see the rust appear. Isn't that amazing? I love this. This is my favorite way to do rust. I've seen people do it with cinnamon, and I get that, but I love paint. So more orange. Flip this guy around, and just wherever you think. I usually wind up going too far and doing too much. And if I think I've gone too far, and I can always go back, add some black, add some brown. You can always tone it down a little bit. So you just do as much as you want. Leave some of that gray showing through if you like. I like that. I think it makes the star look older but not ancient, right? You know. So I'm really pleased with how this one is coming out. Well, this is my prototype, and this is my second one. And again, use a little bit of blending action, right? And then take a little bit of orange and just hit in a few spots some lighter orange, because you'll notice with rust there's lighter versions of the orange, and sometimes there's blended orange, and so you can just kind of dab in a few bits. Like I say, you can do this with that big chip brush too. It's much faster, but you don't have as much control. I have done entire galvanized buckets this way, guys, with that chip brush and this kind of paint. So it's quite a great technique for any of us farmhouse style crafters. So there we have it. It is done. I'm pretty happy with that, so I'm going to stop and we are going to call it good. So there's our second star. There's our first star, our second star. We just need to let this dry and you are set to go. I hope you enjoyed the video and that you will give it a try.